is elevating the sparks of the world of Tohu, number one. Number two, we explain that the sparks of the world of Tohu are so much higher than even the sparks of Kedusha, that are things that are holy. So, therefore, when a person stands up to Nisayan and they elevate that spark by overcoming the test, that spark that's in there reconnects to its source. The source is a very high source, and I'm the one that's able to absorb it because I'm the one that sort of freed this source from captivity. I redeemed it. I extracted it from being captive by elevating it and reconnecting it to its source. That empowers me that I can now have a higher and a greater understanding of Hashem, which is in the word das. That's what it means, Ladas Hashem. In this chapter and the next, I'm going to explain more specifically the difference between how we elevate the spark in a Nisayan, how it's different than the way we elevate the spark in other items like food or clothing or whatever. So let's start with Dalit. V'hi Zehu. Hashem tests you ladas. The whole purpose of the test. Ulalois ulagia el ayideu avodah dafke l'pchinas das. That we should rise, and we should reach and achieve through our avodah, which is, what's the avodah? To overcome the test. We reach das as havaya, which means have knowledge of Hashem in a way of das, but not just in general, but havaya l'mayla matava, that we recognize and we feel Hashem's, how he's above nature. And that presence of Hashem, that he's above nature, we feel it in a way which is reality to us, just like the reality of Gashmis. And the sparks of godliness that are in this final Golos, which is the Golos after the Beis Hamikdash was destroyed, that's called the final Golos. And that's referred to as Golos Eden because it's Rome. And Rome is the people of Rome were descendants of Edom, and Edom was the descendant of Esau, so it's called Golos Edom. But Pradnikus Mashiach, and in this final Golos itself, especially now, where we already hear the footsteps of Mashiach, which means the end of the Golos. So the sparks that need to be elevated now more than ever are the sparks that are in Nisyonis. The godly spark in a test is hidden much more than the godly spark in food, in clothing, in objects, and so on. Like we explained yesterday and the other day, that the godly spark in everything else is something which is a concealment of godliness, but in a passive way. The godly spark in the Sayan is concealment of godliness in a way where it's aggressively opposing godliness. In other words, there's something pushing me or pulling me and compelling me to do an Aveira. That force is something very low. So that's the godly spark in the Nisayan, must come from very high. This in itself indicates how high the source is, that it's very, very high. The commercial Evan Shabarisha Kaisel, like the marshal of the stone that's at the top of the wall. The Shanefel Lamata, when it falls, it falls in a place which is more distant from the original wall. Hey, but it's to tell you the same applies to the sparks. And tell you there's another window over there. If you're wondering where the cold is coming from, okay. Those sparks that they fell down very low, they come from the higher source. And the Sayan is not like other physical things that are elevated. When we eat food, we make a bracha before, we make a bracha after, we're elevating the spark in the food. So when we drink water, we're elevating the spark in this water. Person puts on clothes and wears the clothes according to Torah, we're elevating the clothes. Person lives in a house, in this house, good morning. Living in the house, and I'm doing things according to Torah in this house. I'm elevating the walls, the floor, the ceiling, the table, the chairs. If I'm cooking in my kitchen according to Torah, I'm elevating everything in the kitchen. So this is elevating the sparks in all the physical objects. So the spark of godliness is in this food. Food is only an example, but it applies to everything. In the food that's being elevated. Now, underline these two words, misbarer, just again that you should be familiar with the terms that let me see, I wrote it down in the list here of terms in the workbook. Let's go back to the workbook for a second. So look where it says Ois Dalid. Number one, birudim. The word birudim means elevating. That's the term that's used for elevating the sparks. Good morning. In the laws of Shabbos, there's a malacha that's called borer. Anyone knows what that is? Borer?
Separating.
Right, very good. I see you're on level 2. Okay. Separating. What am I separating? I'm separating the good from the bad. So it means to actually, it's a little bit more precise than separating. It really means borer, the varer means to extract. I'm extracting the good from the bad. So I have something on the table, and there's things that I want that are good, and the things that I don't want. And if I choose the good and leave the bad, that's called choosing and extracting the good from the bad. So this is the same term that's used, elevating the sparks. There's food, and in the food is a spark of godliness. And what I'm doing is I'm extracting the spark of godliness from the actual physical food. So I'm taking out the good from the bad, and I'm elevating it. You know, they tell the story that there was once a Rebbe that after he passes away, his son took over the leadership. And we don't have this custom in Chabad, but by other Hasidim, every dish that the Rebbe eats, he would eat a little bit, and then he would pass the dish down, and everybody ate what was left over, whether it's for the fish, or the meat, or the dessert, because when Rebbe eats, it's considered something very holy, and everybody wanted to have part of it. And don't forget that actually when we eat, it's also like a korban. Every time we eat in our own home, it's like bringing a sacrifice. That's what it's brought down in Shulchan Aruch. But with us, it's not so revealed because we also have other things in mind. But tzaddikim, whose minds are pure, and when they eat the food, they eat it purely by Hashem. So therefore, this food is as if we're eating from a korban, which is a very special thing. So this son of the Rebbe, the new Rebbe, used to eat most of the fish, and whatever little bit left, he gave it to the Chassidim to eat. There was nothing much. There was very little left to be able to divide amongst everybody. So one of them said to him, I don't understand, maybe you can explain. Your father used to eat a little bit and give the rest to the Chassidim. You eat the whole piece and give very little to the Chassidim. It's not enough. What is there a reason for that? So he said, yeah, my father was a very big tzaddik. He looked at the piece of fish. He saw right away where the spark is. He took it out and he gave you guys the rest. I'm not such a tzaddik like my father, so I have to try. Maybe the spark is here. No. Maybe it's there. No. By the time I find the spark, most of the fish is gone already, so I give it out. But don't worry, it's not so technical. So basically, it's called extracting. I'm extracting. That's where we use the term like taking out of captivity. The spark of godliness is held captive in the physical food, which conceals it. And by me eating it properly and making a bracha, I'm revealing it, I'm extracting it. That's called bira. Then turn the page. Okay, so I don't have to turn the page. Look in the mimer. I guess I didn't put it in because it's the same word. Look, where it's underlined. Hamizbarer. It's the same term. The only difference is borer means to extract, and mizbarer in Hebrew means the one that is being extracted, the one that's being chosen. So, when a person eats the food, Alpi mitzvah Torah, according to the Torah directive, which means he eats food that's kosher. And he makes a bracha on the food, tchila, before the same. And he makes a bracha on the food after he finishes eating the food. Let's turn the page. The guf, the etzem achilosei, to the boy, and not only that, but the manner that he eats is also in a refined manner, which means he eats with the intention that he's not just there to fill his stomach or just to satisfy his passions. He's eating in a way which is purposeful, to be healthy, to serve Hashem. By eating this way in a proper way, mevarer es hamaychel, he's elevating the food. Again, we're using the word mevarer, means he's choosing, he's taking out and extracting the spark of godliness in that way. V'hainu. So what does this mean? Shabir, the way to elevate the spark is either his askus shaladim imamayim, is by the person engaging with the food. In other words, levarich halav, I make a bracha on the food, and then I eat the food, and I eat it properly, which is l'shem shamayim. And now, after I finish eating the food, which provides me with strength, I take that strength and I use it to serve Hashem. With the koyach of that food, he learns Torah, mispalel and davens, he's involved in doing acts of kindness, mitzvahs, observing mitzvahs. So by the fact that I do all this, the spark in the food gets elevated, the nichla balakus, and it becomes included in godliness, like we said before, back to its source. And the same as with all physical things. So the way, again, the manner how we're able to elevate it is by engaging with it. By days and through that, the spark gets elevated. The tamadavar, and the reason for that is, obviously the spark is in this physical object. So therefore, the way to elevate is by engaging with the physical object. That's how the spark is able to be elevated and become included in godliness. It's extracted from the physical object and becomes included in its spiritual source. But in the sign is different. But in the sign is different. The way to elevate in the sign, something which is testing me, something which is challenging me, it's not by engaging with that nisayon. It's actually engaging myself with myself. This gaber al nisayon to overcome the test, which means that nisayon ain't davar mitzad atzmei klal. In truth, a nisayon is not has real, no true substance. In other words, the nisayon. So, like, let's say we see the story with the Adam Arisha and Chava, as it says in the Chumash, that she saw the fruit of the Eitz Hadas, and she saw that it's very pleasant to the eye, and she knew that it's pleasant to the taste. So she was overcome with a passion. She had this burning desire to eat the food, and therefore she couldn't contain herself when she ate the food. So in this case, I have to recognize that this nisayon, it appears, I perceive it as if it's impossible. I can't be without it. And that's really false. That's not really true. It only appears that way. It's only, I perceive it that way. But in reality, if I wouldn't give it any substance, it wouldn't have any substance. So this is similar to what came up a number of times already in class, that sometimes when a person has a certain thought, let's say, that's a disturbing thought, doesn't let them concentrate on life, on what they need to do, and they know that it's a disturbing thought, but somehow they feel, I can't stop myself. That is not true. That part is false, and that's part of the Nisayan. That it appears as if this is something which I have no choice. I have to sort of suffer from this, and therefore I surrender. But the truth is, it has no true substance. The degree of the strength of this Nisayan is as much as I'll give it. If I pay attention to it, it has substance. If I pay less attention to it, it has less substance. If I pay no attention to it, it disappears completely. So that means I'm not engaging with the Nisayan. On the contrary, I'm trying to disregard it. I want to dismiss it. I want to ignore it. What I'm working with is with me, myself, and I, not with the Nisayan. To be strong and not to let myself get misled by this passion or this thing that I saw, this thing that I heard, or this feeling. If a person encounters something that's pulling them away, I try to dismiss it. I try to ignore it, and by ignoring it, it will become dismissed. That's what he's saying. That's what a Nisayan is. So it means that a Nisayan is by disengaging, and elevating spark in the food is by engaging with the food. That's the key difference. If a person has a thought to do something which is an Avera, and it's a strong thought, so my Avera should really be to recognize that this thought is really coming from Klipa. It's not really me, and it's not really for my benefit. It's coming from Klipa. And if I don't pay attention to it, and I just disregard it, it'll stop harassing me, and I won't have to give into it. So that means my effort is not to pay attention to it, not to take it seriously, not to give it any substance. So what he's saying is the opposite of working with other things. When I eat food and I want to elevate it, it's just the opposite. I'm engaging with it. I make a bracha before, I make a bracha after, I actually eat the food, so I'm engaging with it. And the sign is the opposite, stay away from it, disregard it, dismiss it, ignore it, and that's how it becomes elevated. Everybody's trying to think, so what does that mean practically? How do you work that out? I'm sure that's what's on your mind. So let's see, we'll take a few examples. But first, let's learn a little bit more inside. So again, let's read that line. Masha'en came in a sign, unlike a test, the Eifin Abirur, the way to elevate the spark in a test, is loibes askus boy ba'atzmai, not by engaging with this testing situation. Kimbis askus ha'adam im askus. The word is askus means engaging. By I'm engaging with myself, this gaber al nisayin. I'm working on myself to not let myself get pulled in and sucked into this test. That a sayin ain't makal. The reason is because the sayin really has no true substance. It only appears to me that there's something there that's very strong. This cannot be compared to other physical objects. Those things are real. The food is real, and the clothing I'm wearing is real. The drink is real, and there's a spark in it. But the Zohar, and therefore, Vera and Nitzutzis, the way to elevate that spark, why there's askus badover gashmi. It's by engaging with that gashmitic thing, that it should be according to Torah. But in the saying something which doesn't really have true substance. Rak shehemin Hashem allows something to come, lahalim to conceal, l'noya to stop a person. V'zeu koich mitziusi. That's what gives it strength. The fact that I'm affected by it, and I'm allowing it to mislead me or weaken me. That is what gives it strength. And the more I disregard it and dismiss it, the less of substance it has. In fact, to the point that it becomes totally non-existent. So imagine a person, I just give an example, a person has certain fears in their head that are totally baseless. I'm not a psychologist, but I'm based on what I'm saying here. If let's say a child is afraid that the person in the picture on the wall is going to jump out and do something to me. So what do? You have to explain to them what pictures are and what walls are and talk about it. The more you talk about it, the more you give it substance. You have to find a way to distract him completely from this narishkeit. He's not even thinking about it. And then lo and behold, I told you once before that every one of us sitting here, if you think back to years ago, there were certain things that were literally obsessions. We were worried about it, thinking about it. And then we think now, so what about that thing that I used to have on my mind? I couldn't stop thinking about it. I haven't thought about it for who knows how many years. And then you say to yourself, so was that issue solved? No. So why did I stop thinking about it? Probably the answer. Because new problems in life came up, and I was busy with those. And because I didn't pay attention to that, because something bigger came up, once I stopped paying attention to it, it stopped coming. It's my paying attention to it that gives it strength. Remember we said, don't feed the cat. That this is basically the same idea, that it has no true substance. That's a nisayon. So again, we're not talking about if a person comes to me and tries to convince me, they say not to believe in Torah. It's not that the person is an imagination. He's a real person, somebody that I know, or might even be my relative, and somebody's very smart. All that is real. But the things that he's saying and the feeling that it feels convincing, all this is just that it feels that way, and the more substance I give it, like I try to answer it, and right, it's a good question, maybe I should do this, maybe that. All these things only give it more substance. And if I would just disregard it and dismiss it, I will find that it doesn't even bother me anymore. So what does a person need to work with themselves to be strong? He called his askus, tzarech liyos, v'hodam atzmei. I work with myself, and what I'm working on is gabe v'litches es a hester, to be strong and to overcome whatever it is that's concealing. And how do I do that? I have to awaken within myself. Koyach asmi means a strength that comes from the essence of my soul. Should take it on a neshama, and that essence has unlimited force. It's something very forceful, very powerful. Nothing can sort of bend it, and nothing could affect it. And that force is called Nekudus Hayadus. The Yiddish term for that is always used, the Pintel Yid, which means the essence of the soul, Sheyeshna v'cholecha b'Yisrael, that every one of us has, Lamed v'tekiv neged kol menei u'ma'akiv. To stand up with full strength against everything and anything that stands in the way. I just know that I make up my mind, I'm going to do this mitzvah regardless. And anything else that's going to stop me, I'm not going to give it any substance. And if a person awakens that deeper strength that we have in the neshama, that will not allow that anything should get near me and anything should be able to affect me in a negative way. And we know that this is something which normally doesn't surface, this deeper part of the neshama. Otherwise, we'd all be like tzaddikim. But when we're being challenged, when there's a test, that actually has the power in it to wake up that deeper part of the neshama. Again, when you listen to the people speaking, especially the hostages, I mean, it's incredible. What we're seeing is what it says in the Mamar, we're seeing it in the reality. A person is a hostage, worse conditions, we don't even want to go there and even think about what they went through, then you'll have nightmares for the next few months. So we know, though, that it was horrible. And what's going on in this person's head? I'm keeping Shabbos. I don't care what they do. I don't care what they say. And now they're coming out and they're calling to the rest of the people, look, we kept Shabbos under those circumstances. Why don't you all keep Shabbos? They made this Friday sort of a global or at least a national day of people keeping Shabbos. But you think, who are these people? These are not people who were very observant before they went into it. So what happened under these circumstances? This Yikudas Hayadus, this essence of the soul came out. This sort of unconditional force and strength and connection to Hashem came out to the surface, and therefore they were just determined that this is the way it's going to be. Nothing's going to stop me, and they took it to the end. A lot of these things, the people themselves will tell you that before they went in, they had no idea that they had this kind of strength in them. So, again, when there is a test, what happens to most people, our minds start thinking, why is Hashem doing this to me? Instead of focusing on me and what I need to do, I start thinking about Hashem, and I get a little bit upset about him, and why is he doing it? I'm trying so hard to do things right. Why is he sending me another test? What's going on? We're in the wrong track. What should we be thinking about it? Just don't give any substance to the test. And the test won't be able to get in my way. I won't be able to stop me from doing what I need. And ultimately, that was the original purpose why Hashem did it in the first place, to help me rise to a higher level. Yeah.
Will we ever discuss how to tell the difference between the sign
and the regular nitzitzis?
And the regular nitzitzis, like meaning other things, or something like dismissive?
I think basically in the sign, I think it's a good question. We spoke about the other day also, people wrote the question, how do you define, where do you draw that line? What's in a sign? I think in a sign is when I feel a certain force that's pulling me in a negative direction. In other words, there's certain things that people do, which they just do. There's not a lot of drama involved. But when a person feels that there's a force that's pulling me and pushing me in a certain direction, I don't want to go there, and I'm fighting it, that's in the sign. Whether it's with food, whether it's with clothing, whether it's with anger, whether it's lashon hara, whether it's with Shabbos. But if I feel that there's something that's very strong, very forcefully pulling me in the direction of doing an avera, that's called in the sign.
But the spark is more like easier, like fast. Kind of like it's much more easier to elevate and like more like food or something physical.
In some ways, it's harder because it's a force that's pulling me.
No, the spark. I'm saying the spark to elevate.
Oh, yes,
it's faster and easier.
This part is faster and easier. I wouldn't use the word easier. I'd say faster. If I disregard it, poof, it disappears. But why I'm saying not easier, because the definition of a nisayon is something which is not easy. On the surface, it's something which is pulling me and forcing me into a situation where it looks like, it feels like I can't help it. That's the way the nisayon makes it feel. But I have to recognize that that part is all the way I feel, and it's not real. It's only me feeling that way. I mean, today, I was going to say with these virtual, what do they call it? You know, when you can watch, they put these things on your eyes and you're watching something. VR. What?
VR.
VR. Virtual reality, right? Sorry. So you're looking at something and you get frightened, but in reality, it's not even emes. You know, they showed this thing with the Beis Hamikdash. And I remember, you know, I did it in the house with the kids, they were watching it, and this guy screaming, I'm falling down, I'm falling off, you know. It looks like that, it's totally not emes. So the only way to change it is not by pushing your hands back. You have to tell yourself, this is not real, don't worry. Yes.
So it seems to me with even in the thinking there, it's like if we have negative patterns of thinking, to say this is not the truth, and it's a test.
Right, and especially when it feels like I can't help myself. That's just the way I think. That's not true, right? And ultimately, everything begins with thoughts. Whatever I do is a result of the thoughts that I have. Whatever I feel is results of the thoughts that I have. So really, if we can stop it on the first stop, the train won't go any further.
And feeling too, perhaps like if we're worrying, I mean, it's harder to stop the worry, but it's coming from a thought and it's not trusting Hashem, the worry thing.
Right, so again, it begins up here, right? So the main point in this part of the Mamar is to bring out this point, and that is that the difference between elevating the spark in food is by engaging with it, and the way to elevate the spark in the sun is by disengaging. And the more I engage within the sun to try to knock it out, I don't realize that the stronger I'm making it.
But what about like the other type of Messiah? Because this is like the type that you're like, I don't know, either not doing something or doing something like with regards to mitzvahs. But what about like challenges in life, like on Hashem? What's difficult things in our life? As in
Right. So again, what we're talking about is how it affects my relationship with Hashem. So that's what happens. A person, let's say, is not finding a job and having tremendous difficulty supporting their family, and it's causing a lot of pain and suffering. That's a fact. That's not a figment of my imagination. But when the thought comes to me that Hashem is not being fair, as Shalom, I did so many mitzvahs, I did this and I did that. Why is he doing this to me? Or any thought along those lines, that's the Messiah part. That it's affecting my relationship with Hashem. And yes, it could be that if I do have the right thoughts, that itself will help. Maybe the whole purpose why Hashem made this to happen is that I should overcome that Nisayan by not having those negative thoughts. And when I do that, as we'll soon learn, then the negative thing stops happening also. We'll do that a little later. Yeah.
So you said when it comes up, it awakens the people I did. And what can we do to help awaken it? Just tell ourselves, this isn't true, this is standard in charge. You know, until it awakens itself and the inspiration comes.
Right, so it appears to be that the Nisayan itself wakes it up. I have to, my awakening comes by being aware. I have to make myself aware that I have a neshama and I have a pintalit and I have the power to disregard it and have the power to dismiss it, and I can do it. And then it goes away. I told this story once, had an event from the Chol Yadus. And the highlight of the event was we invited this woman who actually was one of our alumni, and she was a comedian, and she was going to perform. So it happens to be, this would be the first time she's performing on such a level. She did it for a small little group, not for, it was about 400 people there. Okay, we're at this place, everything is set and fine. This one speaks, that one sings, now comes ready to call her up. She got a panic attack. I can't do it. And the whole program is like, what? How come you can't do it? I just can't. That's what she said. So someone in the crowd just got on her case and kept saying, you can do it, you can do it, you can do it, just go up there, you can do it, you can do it. She said it 613 times, maybe. And she went up and she did it. In other words, the thought that I can't was not emes. That was not emes. And if you just disregard that thought and just go up there, jump in the water and do it, it'll disappear. Okay, you don't have to do it. So in a sense, that's what we have to say to ourselves. You can do it. And the fact that I feel that I can't, and I think everybody goes through something like this, definitely in our journeys, where certain mitzvahs come up. That I say to myself, nah, that I can't, this I couldn't do. You know, I can do this mitzvah, that mitzvah, this, and then half a year later, you find out that you're doing it. How did that happen? Sometimes I don't even remember how did that happen. I remember saying, I'll never do that. But the answer is because at a certain point you realize that it's just the Yetzer Hara that's telling you can't do it, but it's not real. And then when you do it, you see nothing happened. Nothing exploded. Yep. And a few more minutes. Let's start. Hey, so it's a continuation. We can't even take a break in the middle. I mean, we could, but it appears as if we can't because it's continuation. V'hine, zoi si avedis kol Yisrael. This is the aveda of every year. The Golos Achra, Bikkus Mashiach. Especially the end of Golos. The main aveda is la'orer es nekudis hayadus. To remember, I told you. Remember the circumstances when the Rebbe said this Maimer, the previous Rebbe. This was 1929 in Russia. He himself had just been miraculously saved from the Russian jails, from people who were ready to Rahman execute him, and many of the Chabad Hasidim were in jail and were executed. It was a very, very difficult time. And the Frierdiker Rebbe then was demanding of the Hasidim to keep the underground yeshivas and underground cheder and underground kashrus and underground mikveh and to keep Yiddishkeit going in Russia. And it required this kind of Mesiras Nefesh. Thank God we don't have to deal with that. We have to deal with little insaneness compared to that. But nevertheless, this is what he was saying. This is a time that we have to awaken as the Kudus Hayadus, that Pintel Yid, that essence of the soul. Asher nimtza omek is found deep, deep, deep in the heart of every Jew. And with the strength and the force of this pintalayat, again, the force is infinite. The force of this neshama, the essence, it's an unconditional bond with Hashem. This will give him the strength. He can stand up against anything that's blocking. Nothing in the world can stop him. From learning Torah, or the kaimus hamitzvos and observing the mitzvahs, or there's gaber ala nesoyim. Yilmad Torah v'kaimus hamitzvos, and he could learn the Torah, observe the mitzvahs in a way, believe losum lei, without paying attention. Klau elameinu v'amakim. Don't pay attention to them. Don't give them any substance. Don't give it any importance. I just want to add that on top of everything that it says, the mere fact that a Rebbe says a mimer like this, that is sending energy to the Hasidim and giving us the strength to be that way. When a person hears such words, when a person reads such words, but really a Rebbe, spiritually, what he gives, he transmits spiritual strength to us. So that's also part of what's happening. He awakens that essence of the neshama in us. Now he's going to add another point in what way the two Avedas are different. But I don't think we'll have enough time to do that, so maybe we'll stop here. What another thing in how elevating the spark in a soyan is different than elevating the spark in food and in clothing and other items. It's a different kind of Aveda. Okay, to be continued.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you.
Oh, okay. Yes.
We're part of the reading English. I don't mind. Sheets I'll take, but this, you still, this thing. I'll remind you, once we start Shmos, we have to do